and a few other offices. I'm Miri Cypers, and I'm the regional director for the Pacific Northwest based in Seattle. And I just wanted to open up by talking a little bit about ADL's commitment to voting rights, which has been a long-standing effort over our 100-year history. And I think, as many of us know, and why we're all here today, we face a really important time right now in our democracy where we're already facing challenges to voters from marginalized communities coupled with a pandemic. And we're also really concerned about the threat of extremists and what they pose to election security right now. So those are all issues we've been focusing on both nationally and in our local communities. So those are longstanding efforts that we'll continue to do, but we appreciate you showing up, your willingness to educate voters and reach out to them during this crucial time. And with that, I will just wrap up. And I thank Kendall and Rafi for organizing this and for doing all the behind the scenes logistics to make sure that you get your postcards and that we're able to just really get out there and help people get out the vote. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Freed. I'm the Associate Director of National Young Leadership at ADL. And to echo Miri's appreciation, I first just wanted to say thank you so much for engaging in this really important initiative, and to all the leadership of our staff and especially our GLI alumni who have really been driving this forward. As Miri alluded to, currently in this time of pandemic, of surging extremism, hyperpolarization, and attempts to suppress the vote, ADL is really actively engaging with experts and with partner organizations to ensure equal and fair access to the ballot. This is especially important now as we work to overcome obstacles that could negatively impact voter participation. And we know that initiatives like this, like the postcard initiative that y'all are working on, is a really effective way to increase voter turnout and access and information around voting. So I first off just wanted to say thank you so much for engaging with this. As someone who works directly with our GLI program across the country, it is really what we look for and hope for in seeing the graduates and the alumni of our GLI program and community engaging in real action items to help push our work and push our missions forward, like this one today. In addition to the postcard initiative right here, I also just wanted to raise folks' attention to lots of other ways that there are opportunities for you to engage in voting rights efforts with ADL as well, specifically for the GLI community. We've put out trainings on election protection and stopping cyber suppression with our partners at Common Cause. And next week, we will be hosting a special briefing on election-related extremism, both online and in person, with Oren Siegel, our Vice President of the Center on Extremism, and Mike Solomon, the Director of Community Engagement and Organizing. And we'll continue to have more opportunities like this that we ask you to, please step up and take part and get involved to increase your action, increase your awareness and education around all things connected to voting rights with ADL. So thank you so much again. Could not appreciate your leadership, your participation, and your activism more in this work. Really excited to be a partner with you all in this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Cantor, a recent alumni of the GLI program from the Pacific Northwest, who's going to speak to us a little bit about voter education. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I just wanted to talk to you guys about why this work is important. And also, I understand that a lot of the people who are listening to the chat, you're going to vote, but we all have to understand why people don't vote, right? Because we're writing these postcards to people who are either going to forget or who don't see the value in their vote. So the biggest reason why people don't vote is they feel that their vote doesn't make a difference. They may say that, like, I'm a member of party X and there's so many people in the city or town I live that my vote is washed out and it doesn't count. You may hear some people who say I'm not inspired, right? And in a nonpartisan way, it's really important to make sure that everyone does vote, particularly for ADL and GLI's missions. So with anyone believes that their vote doesn't matter, Just in Washington state alone, in the last midterm elections in 2018, there were 5 state legislative races determined by less than 1% of the vote, and an additional 5 races that were determined by less than 2% of the vote. On top of that, no one realizes how common it is that an election is won by 1 vote. In 2018, there were 2 races for state legislatures in Alaska and Kentucky that were won by 1 vote. Now, regardless of how someone votes, who they vote for isn't what the point of this exercise is. It's that they're voting. You know, with my GLI class, we had an awesome opportunity to go to the state capitol to advocate for things like the first ban on swatting, which is a terrible practice, the first ban in the country. And while I believe that every single legislature we met with saw the value and the importance of doing this kind of work, I also know that when they were meeting with us, they were taking us seriously because we have thousands of volunteers who at least will vote. And so it's more important to just get the vote out than it is to really talk about who they're voting for. And this is a nonpartisan exercise, so you're not going to do that anyway. And ultimately, no matter how anyone feels, no matter what the result of the election is, for us to keep doing the work the ADL does, we need to make sure that as many ADL volunteers and GLI alumni vote as possible to help make sure that we are protecting communities in 2021. And with that, I would like to toss things over to Shira.
Thanks, Matt. So, hi everyone. I'm Shira Oysterman. I'm an alumni of the San Francisco Bay Area 2019-2020 GLI cohort. You'll see some of my alumni on this chat as well. So what did you sign up for by agreeing to do this? You are agreeing to write a couple handwritten postcards between 10 and 20 based on what you've received in your packet. ADL, as Matt said, since we are a 501c3 organization, please make sure that your messages are nonpartisan. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that, on what you should actually be including. We'll talk more later in this session about what your packet's going to actually include. But the biggest takeaway on this slide is please, please, please make sure you send your postcards no later than October 23rd, because we don't want to overwhelm the postal service. We want to make sure that these postcards get out on time so that people not only receive them, but then if they're voting by mail, have time to do that as well. Next slide. So, you know, a postcard's very short. What are you supposed to include on this? It's pretty simple. Start with dear whoever you're writing to. You'll be receiving their name, so you can use their first name. Please make sure that you're printing legibly and in English so that, you know, the majority of the folks who will be receiving it have English as a first language. Please make sure that your message is nonpartisan and inclusive. Please make sure that, you know, you're also not advocating for a political party or you're advocating for a candidate or endorsing anyone specifically. What you'll see in the examples that I'll go through shortly is that we've written examples that are targeted at appealing to someone's identity as being a voter instead of directing them to vote, because research has shown that it's much more effective in getting turnout if you appeal to their identity. So we're going to welcome you to use the examples that we'll run through. Additionally, in the packet you're receiving, you're going to receive some guidelines, a guidance card that's targeted specifically to your state. Please make sure that you review that, because there are unique state differences, both on when they're receiving, what the deadlines are, but also voter terminology, and we don't want to confuse the voters. So some states, you have an absentee ballot, some states it's a mail-in ballot, you know, same concept, but we want to make sure that the terminology is right. Again, a couple of don'ts: don't mention candidates or political parties. Don't make assumptions about the person that you're writing to based on their names. And please don't mention any specific policies. So some examples. What we're doing here is I'm going to run through a couple examples, but don't fret, don't think that you need to take notes. We'll send you a link with these attachments, and you can also find them on the FAQs on the Seattle ADL homepage. Or if you are having any confusion, just email Kendall and he can send those to you as well. Sorry, Kendall, for adding more work. So this is Alaska specific. It's a short form one, but really basic. Dear whoever you're writing to. I hope you and your loved ones are healthy and safe. I'm writing you to encourage you to join me in being a voter this election. I'm voting because every vote counts, which kind of goes back to what Matt was talking about earlier. And then we just provide specific information for them on where they can find their specific state voting instructions. Here it's elections.alaska.gov. Next slide. In California, we've tailored it a little bit more to reflect here that the postmark date is really important. So in California, ballots must be postmarked by November 3rd. We, kind of changed up our tone for how we're doing and are going more with a shared constitutional right approach. But again, feel free to tailor it as you want. These are just helpful examples if you just don't want to think about it and want to go with what we've provided. So here again, we're setting forth the, where they can find more information to vote. Next slide. Next slide. Great. Arizona, here we're highlighting in Arizona, it's called a ballot by mail. And again, the difference here is that they have to actually have been received by county election officials by 7 p.m. on November 3rd. So again, we're trying to tailor it specifically to the state and providing as much information. And, again, feel free to use the examples that we provide or tailor it as you want. But in this case, we're saying using our voice to help decide the future of this country and our communities is our shared constitutional right. So again, they're pretty short because it's postcard. You're not writing a ton, but please try and include some of the specific deadlines if you're able to. And best of luck and thank you all again for helping with this wonderful campaign. And with that, I'll turn it over to one of my cohort alumni, Zach.
Awesome, thank you, Shira. So as mentioned before, you should have received information in the mail. And with that, it's your guidance card here, which details for which state you have and more of the information specifically drilled down on when the absentee ballots must be postmarked, voting in person, and then additional information for your certain state. And then you have these beautiful postcards. And then on this side, you have your postcard stamps that you can use, and then the addresses for the constituents that are going to vote in the certain state. Next slide, please. So just because these are postcards and not regular notes, just in case you have to just post the postcard on, you just have to put the stamp on the postcard in the right, the address down below, and then your note on the left. And these can be postmarked in your mailbox or in a USPS mailbox as well. And luckily, we don't have the old stamps that you have to lick or anything to put in an envelope. Very COVID friendly over here. Next slide. Yeah, and we're asking everybody to please take a photo of your postcard drop as well, and then mail it to pacificnorthwest@adl.org. And then I think it is time for me to pass it along to Rafi, the Assistant Regional Director of the ADL Central Pacific region, which is Northern California, Utah, and Hawaii.
Thank you, Zach. I want to really just thank Zach, Shira, Matt, and Mindy, GLI alumni, who've really helped move this effort along. And of course, my colleague Kendall in Seattle, as well as the other colleagues who worked on this. So I know we're all involved in this opportunity because we believe in getting out the vote, and we believe in providing accurate voting information in an election year that's been marred by voting disinformation and misinformation. And so this is just to provide 2 additional brief opportunities for folks to continue to get out the vote after completing their postcards. And so we're just going to highlight 2 organizations that you can volunteer with that are also 501c3 nonpartisan organizations. So the first one is Reclaim Our Vote from the Center for Common Ground. And they're a nonpartisan phone banking campaign reaching out to voters of color in major voter suppression states. And what's great about them is they offer weekly beginners trainings for phone banking on Mondays and on Saturdays. And then they have group phone banking efforts together. And they even have a phone banking training for introverts who want to learn how to phone bank. And you'll see links to this information in your follow-up email. With that, I want to pass it along to Mindy Mashmeyer, who's Vice President of Marketing and Brand Partnerships at Rock the Vote. and has also been a GLI alumni from the ADL Central Pacific to share about ways to volunteer with Rock the Vote. Mindy.
Thanks, Rafi. And thank you all for having me. So Rock the Vote has been around for just about 30 years, and we work to empower young voters. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you all today is our relational organizing program. So this is for like ultra introverts and people that aren't necessarily introverted too, because the focus of relational organizing really is on the power that we have over the people that we know. So we know that a message encouraging someone to vote from someone you know is 10 times more likely to result in the person becoming a voter. So if you go to rockthevote.org/volunteer, there's instructions there on how to be part of our relational organizing program. It's really like a peer-to-peer texting platform. So there's an app called Empower that you download, you enter kind of your contacts, and I would say it's the folks that are maybe less likely in your life to vote. So if you have like a young niece or nephew who's turning 18 for the first time, or maybe that uncle that always talks about how he doesn't want to vote. Those are the people that we're really looking for, kind of folks that have been identified as like unlikely voters. So that's a little bit about our relational organizing program. And then we also set up for you all a text code. So if you text ADL to 788-683, you'll be enrolled in our election reminder program. So you'll be asked like, what's your zip code? And then based on your zip code, you'll get election reminders as well. So they will tell you, you know, that it's early voting is available in, say, California beginning this date, or, you know, deadline to have your put your ballot or have your ballot received in, you know, if you're in Arizona is X date. So take advantage of that as well. And if you have any questions or interested in relational organizing, please feel free to reach out. Happy to chat with you. And I will turn it over to Mary.
Hope you can see me. Sorry, I'm traveling a little right now, but thank you to all of our wonderful speakers, Mindy, Rafi, Kendall, our amazing GLI alums, Michelle, for this wonderful program today. We hope that it's useful for you. These are great resources.
Can I say something too?
After I'm done, you can say, get out the vote.
Get out the vote.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, and please be in touch if you need if you have any questions or need any resources. And we're really looking forward to engaging with this project and in the long term. Bye.